Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. Humble yourselves. The Bible says in James 4, but he giveth more grace, wherefore he saith, God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. The word resist, it means to range and battle against. It means to oppose. Let's understand what this verse is saying. The verse is saying God opposes the proud. That means when I decide I want to do my own thing and I'm going to have pride in my heart, at that moment, God says, okay, now I have to oppose you. I don't want God opposing me in my life. I need as much help as I can from God in my life. I want God helping me. I want God strengthening me. I want God giving me all that I need. But when we have pride in our life, God says, He resists us. He opposes us in our lives. There's nothing that forfeits God's blessing quite like pride. God literally will oppose the proud in heart. He hates it so much, he's decided he'll fight those who live pridefully. And when we think about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and we think about what happened there, we understand that it was a very wicked city and wicked cities, and what was going on. The immorality was just outrageous. It was very terrible. And what happened? God finally had enough, right? So what did he do? He sent fire and brimstone and destroyed it, right? We understand. We know the story. But it's very interesting if you look in Ezekiel, and I'll have the verse for you, what is described later as their sin. We understand what a lot of their sin was. We understand that. But look what Ezekiel says. It's very interesting. Ezekiel 16:49 says this, behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom. And in our minds, we could put immediately immorality, homosexuality. Those were sins that were rampant in that day. And that's why that's why God destroyed them. But here's what it says in Ezekiel 16. This was the iniquity. What is it, church? Pride. Pride. That was their issue. That was their problem. You see, pride is really the root. It's the genesis of sin. Pride is thinking and acting that we know better than God. Sodom was full of pride. That's what led them to get into all that debauchery, because they said, okay, God, this is your way, but we know better. We're going to do it our own way. That's pride. And may I say, it's no wonder that our nation is where it's at today, because we're so full of pride. And God is calling on his people to humble themselves. So let me ask you today, would you make a choice to humble yourself? And if you think, I don't need to do that, I'm pretty humble, then you need to hit the altar first. Oh boy, we need to humble ourselves. You know, we talk about God humbling us, and what we mean is God brought a situation into our life that knocked us down a peg, helped us realize we're not all that in a bag of chips. And I understand what we mean when we say that, but in all reality, God cannot force us to have a heart of humility. You can't do that. That's our choice. Let me show you briefly some Bible examples. Letter A, let's notice Pharaoh's mistake. As we think about humbling ourselves, notice Pharaoh's mistake. We know the story. I won't get into all of it. But God brings these 10 plagues upon Pharaoh in Egypt. You remember that? And it's apocalyptic stuff. It's incredible if you read through Exodus what God does there. And we find that after the frogs, here's what Pharaoh does. Exodus 8:15. But when Pharaoh saw there was respite, or there was a break, there was a breather from all this judgment, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. So instead of this great trial, this great affliction, humbling Pharaoh, what does he do? He gets hard against God. Look at the next, Exodus 8:32. After the flies, God finally lets the flies go, and Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also. After the hail mingled with fire, Exodus 9, here's what it says. When Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunders were ceased, finally they were done, he sinned yet more and hardened his heart, he and his servants. Sometimes God is trying to get our attention. He's bringing circumstances into our lives to get us to look up to him, to get us to humble ourselves, but ultimately that choice is left up to us. And may I say, if God brings a situation into your life, don't commit Pharaoh's mistake. Don't get hard against God. Don't do. You won't win. You will not win. don't do that. When God begins to bring things and the pressure's on and it's starting to hurt a little bit, may I say, don't do what Pharaoh did and harden your heart against God. Don't do that. Decide to humble yourself. We see Pharaoh's mistake, let her be. We see Nebuchadnezzar's metamorphosis. Oh, this is a great story. I wish I had time to get into all of it. But we see Pharaoh's mistake. He does the wrong thing. He hardens his heart. But let's look at Nebuchadnezzar. I'm going to read to you real fast. Daniel chapter 4, and I'll have it on the screen for you. Here's what it says. All this came upon King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. Verse 29, at the end of 12 months, he walked in the palace of the kingdom of Babylon. And the king spake and said, is not this great Babylon that I've built for the house of the kingdom by the might of my power and for the honor of my majesty? What is he saying? He's walking around saying, wow, look what I've done. Man, Babylon, the ultimate world power. It's me. It's Nebuchadnezzar. I'm the man. That's what he's doing. He's walking around looking at his palace thinking, man, this is awesome. I am the best. Verse 31, while the word was in the king's mouth, there fell a voice from heaven, saying, O King Nebuchadnezzar, to thee it is spoken, the kingdom is departed from thee. This kingdom he was so prideful about, God says, it's gone. You're going to lose it. Verse 32, they shall drive thee from men. Thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field. They shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and 7 times or 7 years shall pass over thee until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men and giveth it to whomsoever he will. The same hour was a thing fulfilled upon Nebuchadnezzar. He was driven from men. He ate grass as oxen. His body was wet with the dew of heaven till his hairs were grown like eagle's feathers and his nails like birds' claws. What happened? He had all this pride in his heart, and God said, okay. You think you're a big shot, Nebuchadnezzar? You think you did all this? You think this was all because of what you did? Let me show you. Let me remind you who's really in charge here. And he turns him into an animal for 7 years. It's incredible. Verse 34, at the end of the days, you notice it skips over those 7 years real fast. At the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted up mine eyes unto heaven. Mine understanding returned unto me, and I blessed the Most High. Before, he thought he was the Most High. Now he blesses the real Most High. And I praised and honored him that liveth forever, whose dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom is from generation to generation. And all the inhabitants of the earth are reputed as nothing. And he doeth according to his will in the army of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth. And none can stay his hand or say unto him, what doest thou? What is he saying? No one checks God, is what Nebuchadnezzar is saying. No one says, God, hold on. No one does that to God. Verse 36, at the same time my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor and brightness returned unto me. My counselors and my Lord sought unto me. I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven. All whose works are truth, and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride, he is able to abase. He learned his lesson, didn't he? He thought he was all that. And God said, no, you're not. The only reason you have anything is because I gave it to you. And may I say, the only reason we have anything is because God gave it to us. And God may exalt you and allow you to do this or that or have this or that, but may I say, let's humble ourselves. Let's realize we're nothing. Let's realize that everything we have is only because God in his graciousness and incredible love decided he saw fit to give it to us. Oh, let's humble ourselves. Don't commit Pharaoh's mistake and harden your heart. No. Look at Nebuchadnezzar. When he was prideful and God worked on him, he said, okay, you're right. You're all powerful. And he humbled himself.